thank you all for showing up. And sorry you have to make your own lunch, but all right. So I'd like to start the meeting with a moment of silence for Gary and Sue Howard. If you would join me in a moment. Okay, thank you all. We're going to start with a Rotary Minute from Charlie. Charlie, are you ready to give us our Rotary Minute?
Yes, I am. I visited a friend who's in a Rotary Club north of Albany, New York, and she told me about a project that they have. They have a member of their Rotary Club who had a passion for trying to improve the health of women in Zambia. He discovered that their maternal fatality rate was 50 times higher than that of the United States. Now, in his passion, he went out to the local medical centers and he collected $300,000 worth of medical tools that were not being used. And he's now in the process of going to his clubs in that area and trying to raise $50,000 to get those tools shipped to Zambia to a Rotary Club there that is arranging for the right people to use them. And it made me realize how much Rotary can be a vehicle for passion. And I wondered if each of you would think about if you have a passion that you would like to use Rotary as a vehicle to accomplish. I don't know what it might be. It could be anything, but there are two groups of us. There are those that have a passion that they want to use all of us to accomplish. And there are those of us that are willing to support our friends and our fellow Rotarians in trying to help them achieve those passions. And I hope that each one of you will look at yourselves and say, what is my passion that I would like to achieve? And if I don't have one, what can I do to support the other members of my club who do have a passion? Rotary is such a powerful tool if we are able to use it to achieve all that we and it could be.
Thank you, Charlie. Well said.
Nice job, Charlie.
I think we've heard of numerous instances of things that clubs have done around the world, and we see things in our Rotary magazine all the time. And so we should be very grateful that there are people out there that are acting out their passions about things. Thanks, Charlie. So I'm going to do the inspiration today, and it may sound like this is a depressing inspiration, but I mean it not to be. I mean it to be positive. Right now, we have a lot of things well, several of us have things to be grieving about. Gary and Sue Howard, Howard Novak, my husband and I, and perhaps some of you have things that are grieving you now. Since this is our situation, we have received a lot of support, but a lot of books. And I went through some of my books yesterday, and I pulled out some statements about grief. I think we're all a little bit afraid of people who are grieving. We shouldn't be. But I want to read you some of these statements about grief. There's a gentleman who said, when you find yourself overpowered by melancholy, the best way is to go out and do something kind for somebody. Another woman said, I knew that the full acceptance of the finality of loss and all the pain that goes with it need not diminish life, but could give it a new quality of fulfillment. I also knew that this could not be achieved without going through the agonies of grief and mourning. Thomas Mann said, a man's dying is more the survivor's affair than his own. Another person said, we learn a great deal by going through grief. We become more perceptive, more aware, more determined, and more appreciative of traits we previously ignored in others. Never does one feel oneself so utterly helpless as in trying to speak comfort for great bereavement. I will not try it. Abraham Lincoln said, the best thing about the future is that it comes only one day at a time. And my favorite is, I'm for whatever gets you through the night. And that's from Frank Sinatra. So grieve with people, but don't be afraid of people's grief. So I have just a few brief business things. Armand, do you want to talk about the card project?
Do you want to do that now or after the speaker, or?
Why don't you do it now?
Okay, I'm hoping that everyone read the email I sent out, I believe it was yesterday. Otherwise, you're not going to know what I'm talking about. But we've decided to, with Sally's approval and support, to send out thank you notes to the 52 mentors of the Williston Central School Mentoring Program. I think it's, I saw an article in the Observer, and that's in the email I sent also. I think it's a worthy cause. These people give their free time, their quality time for the children of our community. And I think it's just amazing that they do that. So I have cards. I was hoping to bring them to the meeting today, but that didn't happen. Anyone that needs a card, I don't know if you can see this or not. It has a little Rotary emblem on it, and
see if your lovely assistant can.
okay, I don't know.
We're
not on
see
there. That's
where
why.
we are. Never mind.
Okay. Anyways, I have cards available. I can help to get some to you this coming week, tomorrow, or whenever. Just let me know how many you want. I also mailed a list of the people that are mentors, and I assigned them all a number. Some of them have been taken already. I've had pretty good response, but this would be great if every member of our Rotary Club wrote at least one card. If we had 100% participation, I think that would be amazing. So I hope everyone reads the email and signs up for at least one card, if not more. Any questions?
Sherry's got one.
Armin, how do we know who's taking who? Is that obvious? I'm sorry.
Well, I guess the
Grandma?
best way to do is to call me or email. Probably call or text would be quicker. That way, your choice wouldn't be gone by the time I read the email. So yeah, my phone number is 802-343-0777. Feel free to text me if you have a choice, and if not, just ask me to assign you a few, and I'll do that.
Charlie?
I read the email. Are you going to send out a possible script, or do we each have to make up our own? That making it up is harder work than writing.
Well, I don't know. I don't think it's hard to make one up. I think it would be more heartfelt if they were all different instead of, sending the same thing to everybody. Just thank people for giving their time to this important cause. I can probably come up with some scripts if you want and email them, and you can revise them. I'll do that. Anything else?
So Armin, so I responded to your email, happy to help. So will you actually give us the names of the people you want us to do, or you want us to just pick from the list?
You can pick. I've got you down for the first three, Marty. That's what.
Okay, very good.
Yeah. And if you have a friend that you want to send a card to that's a mentor, by all means, let me know. Sooner the better, because availability might be a problem.
Sure.
Leslie?
Just for those of you who are new and maybe weren't a part of the last letter writing campaign, about a year ago, we wrote thank you notes to school personnel here in Williston. And many members just use their own thank you notes. I think most members did, which is fine. But we also have some that are navy blue and gold and have a Rotary sticker on the front if you want those. So just wanted to kind of put that out there, but it was really fun to kind of think about these people and what they do and write a little note. And it was the response from people. I had an immediate response like the next day from someone just thanking me. So it feels like a relatively easy and fun project. Sherry.
Are we letting people know that we're sending our thanks like from the Rotary, or just are we mentioning Rotary in our thank yous, or are we
Good
just
question. I think it'd be great to.
It's a Rotary project. And
Yeah.
the other thing, if you're using this card that has the Rotary emblem on it, and let's face it, these people are doers, so they might even get an interest in joining Rotary out of this.
Sherry, that's a great question. We'll put together a script and send it out to everybody, but I think it would be very beneficial to say that it's from the Rotary Club.
Armin, I may have missed
Or
this.
fun.
You're going to get the cards to us in some way or other, or how's that?
If you want cards, I will get them to you. Just let me know.
Can they be emailed as an attachment, you think?
Well, they're store-bought cards. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't have I'll run around. I'll drive around and drop some off. Just tell me where and how many you need.
Okay.
Vince, you had a question?
Yeah, so when you address it, we obviously have a person's name. You're sending it to the Williston Central School and address?
No, I'm gonna pick them all up at
Oh, you're gonna-
next Thursday's meeting. Bring your finished cards in and I will bring them to Becky, who's the coordinator for the mentors.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
So I just have a couple more announcements. The first one is a lot of you have asked me for Gary Howard's address. Apparently you don't know that if you go to the member area on our website and you go to the active member section, you can get emails, phone numbers, and addresses for club members. So please try that out. And then the last announcement is, as of next week, we're back to breakfast meetings. So I will see you all next week, at least by 7:15, hopefully by 6:45, to set up the room. Armand?
I love doing this and I think we should do it again occasionally. And maybe even a late afternoon meeting sometime along.
Now, when you said you love doing this, do you mean meeting on Zoom or having lunch meetings?
The noon meetings, the lunch meetings, yes.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a morning person. I don't have a problem with the morning ones, but it's nice to shake it up a little bit once in a while.
Yeah, we will. We'll move things around. So keep reading your Rotary emails when they come to you, because you might miss it, you know? Okay, so
Not
I'm
only
happy
that,
to-
Not only
Yes.
that, but the sender can see who has read he or her's email. And we are watching.
Oh, great. Big Brother's alive and well. Okay, so now I'm really happy to ask John Jacob to introduce our speaker, who is a familiar face for us. John? John, you're muted.
Thank you. Hey, and good morning, everyone. Good morning, Eric. Thank you for joining us this great day here. Speaking about passion, Eric's got a real passion and it aligns with our passion as a Rotary and helping healing assistance for those that need healing assistance. And but just a quick little background about Eric. Eric was born and raised in New Jersey. He moved to Vermont about 20 years ago because of his love of mountains, nature, and passion for everything outdoors. He's been living in Jericho for the 20 years. He's got two kids, both their sons, Devin and Logan, who they started the Wood4Good business or charity here about 4 years ago. His primary business, he's been in the recruiting business his whole adult life since 1994. Runs a company called Pinnacle Search in downtown Burlington. And about 4 years ago, and sometime in 2019, Eric Axelrod and his two young sons, Devin and Logan, discovered they had more firewood than they needed and decided to give it to members of the community who needed it. And after making a delivery to a particularly grateful neighbor, Devin told his father, "I want to do Wood for Good every day." And since the inception of that idea, Wood for Good has grown into a fledgling nonprofit with the generous support of local businesses, community members, and volunteers. This past winter, Wood for Good was able to deliver 75 cords of firewood to families and individuals in need. It is our hope to continue and help him grow and expand his reach to others in need. And I give you Eric.
Thank you, John.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, so that was perfect, but just the one correction is that we actually delivered this past winter 140 loads of wood, which
Wow.
so that's a dated fact that I actually just corrected on the website yesterday, but then but that was 190 cords to those families, because we were bringing about 1.3 cords per family. So
That's phenomenal.
yeah, we're a medium-sized wood operation now, and thank you very much for welcoming me back for a second meeting, so we can give you an update of what we've been able to accomplish over the last year. Can we possibly cue the PowerPoint, please?
Okay, or do you have it on your computer? We can have you share your screen.
Oh, yeah. Shoot, I didn't even, this is the first time I've done it actually with me queuing it. So let me see here. First of all, let me get it queued up. Just give me a sec.
Sure. I mean, I could forward it to Vince. Have it downloaded.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. My mistake.
Sorry, I should have clarified that with you. My mistake, actually. I should have said, hey. All you do is you share screen and Vince will say yes.
Right. I just have to bring it up. So wasn't ready for that.
I probably should have just, I have it up when I downloaded it. If you're having trouble, I'll just bring it up and I'll share.
Yeah, I'm just having a hard time finding. I have like so many iterations of this. One, I want to make sure I'm bringing up the right one, and every one that I've been opening has been a previous version. That's not where it should.
So John, do you want to share?
Yeah, let me go to the downloads and bring that up.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no, my fault here about that. Okay, it's loading, and let me Zoom meeting and share screen. And okay, and start slideshow from the beginning. Okay, I think we should have it, right?
Yeah. And there's an old date for, but this was amended. Yeah. So if we could bring up the next one.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, John alluded to this in the beginning, right? When we first started, we had some extra firewood. And, you know, what originally started as like, let's help some members of the community. We recognized that there was a real underserved need to families in the area. And, you know, what we've recognized from some of our recipient families is that in talking to them, that the choices that they're making are between food, medicine, and heat. And we strongly believe that that type of insecurity should not be something that our community is dealing with, or at least reduce that. And, you know, so our goal this past year, which we came close to achieving, was 150 loads of firewood. Like I indicated, we distributed 140. And this year, our goal is to maintain that same level of distribution. One of the things that I've learned is that this is really like scaling a business, and 200 cords of firewood takes up an amazing amount of land. So we've acquired some additional pieces of equipment and expanded our woodlot area so that we could store more wood, because what we're distributing is seasoned, right? So it has to sit and dry for 1 full year. And so this year we hope to maintain what we did last year. And then next year, with the additional new equipment that we have acquired, we hope to double that number, which is, achieve 400 cords distributed. Ready for the next slide, please.
Okay, page down. Page. Not sure why it's not going to the next page. There it goes.
Yeah, so here is a recipient, a lady that we brought some firewood to, and a lot of times the story of a family doesn't fit the paradigm, right? So she had fallen on tough times, as I recall, had been out of work, and was just so grateful and sent the kindest card to us. And so, I mean, she literally was like jumping out of her seat in that picture. So we do get that response a lot, which is pretty awesome. So we operate like a food bank. There's no criteria for need. We do ask the family that if their family is in fact in need, and we, every once in a while someone will say, well, yeah, I just heard you give away free firewood. And then, obviously they don't, in that case, they wouldn't qualify. So, we try not to have a financial barrier or obligation. We actually find that people most of the time defer the other way, where they actually really need the help and may actually back themselves out because they haven't asked for help in much of their lives. A lot of the folks that we're helping are, haven't really relied on any assistance or very little over the course of their lives, and often are either elderly or fallen on tough times, and we're used to getting the wood themselves. So historically, we've distributed primarily in Chittenden County. When I met with you last year, that was the case. We had that as pretty much a hard stop, that we were trying not to leave Chittenden County, but we've developed this idea this year, which is what we're calling pods. And we've established a landing spot in St. Albans and Middlesex. So we have a new truck that we financed this past year, which is a 3-cord truck. So it's a very large dump truck, right? And we're able to bring large loads to both of those locations. And then we've also established distribution partners, people who are willing to load the trucks and then bring it to families in that area. Thereby, we're able to cover a larger geographic area, and all the while staying within the 50-mile law that we can't distribute firewood beyond. Ready for the next slide, please.
Good question with that, Eric. When you said 50-mile law, I
Yes.
knew about out of state, but I didn't realize 50 miles from. Yeah, is that 50 miles from where the trees were cut, which I guess would be.
Yeah, so that's
the most.
I try to make it 40 miles because we don't really know exactly where the trees were cut, because most of them come from Barrett's, which is a local tree service. And the reason that's the law is because it's about bug distribution, right? And
Right.
so especially with the emerald ash borer.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. So I kind of alluded to this before, but what we found is that there really is very little assistance for families who do not have heating oil. And interestingly enough, those tend to be the poorest Vermonters, at least in my own little study that I've done with the wood that we've distributed, right? And we tend to bring to single wide or double wide trailers, or very old homes that were built in 1800. poorly insulated. And so what we find is that the people who strictly have firewood as a heating source tend to be the ones who are in the most need with the least amount of possible assistance for those families. So anyway, we've learned that through our efforts. Next slide, please. So not to repeat the story, you got what happened in the beginning. 2020, we were officially established as a nonprofit. We distributed 50 loads of wood in that year, which was approximately 2/3 of a cord per family. That was when we had just one log splitter, a truck, my personal trailer, one chainsaw, and a tractor. Since that time, we've received our tax exempt status, and in 2021, that's actually wrong, 75 cords. We distributed actually 120 cords in 2021, and 140 families we helped in 2022, just for the clarifying value, and that is 190 cords, right? Because it was 1.3 cords per family, like I indicated. Last year, we had over 200 individual volunteers at the woodlot. You're actually looking at a lot of the members of the Burlington Rotary in this photograph right here. We did have a Rotary Volunteer Day across all the Rotaries, and had a lot of representation from the clubs. That day, we were able to process almost 15 cords of wood. So that is before the new equipment that we're getting, and we'll go into that in a further slide. And another thing that came about in this past year is developing firewood bundles, and we've started distributing them in local stores. And that has created a actual income stream for Wood4Good. While it's not a ton of money, it's at least, maybe paying for the monthly gas cost or something close to that. And so our hope is to increase that effort so that we can help fund the broader vision of where we want to go with this. Next slide, please.
Just a question there, if I may.
Yeah, okay.
That volunteer day, was that in the spring or the fall? And then
That was in the fall.
Okay. And you season it for the next winter, is that right?
That's right. So any of the wood that we process here is still sitting in the woodlot and won't be distributed until this upcoming fall.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep. All right, so I was alluding to this before. These are some of the towns that we've helped, or where people live that we've helped. We did also partner, one thing I didn't mention before, with Cambridge Cares, which is a Jeffersonville, Cambridge-based nonprofit that does all sorts of random help along the lines of what a Rotary would do. And so we brought and distributed to them, I think, 7 or 8 cords last year. And then they also brought it into that further reach, like we were talking about. And the goal here is just to, increase our footprint so we can cover as much geography as possible, because in Jericho, we now have the equipment to do a very substantial amount of wood production. And these are my boys. In the first slide you saw, they were a little younger. Now they're big kids, and they not only help load trucks, but they project manage and do all sorts of good stuff for Wood4Good, and they wish they could join us today. Ready for next? Yeah, so this was a volunteer day we had maybe in December. These are some of our regulars, and there's Devin running the handle on the wood splitter. So we've acquired a lot of equipment in the past few years, as I've learned that, in the firewood distribution business, there's a lot of capital expenditures. Most of that has been financed. What we're looking at here is the skid steer with a grapple that holds the logs, which makes it easier for and safer for the chainsaw operators to cut the wood. And so in addition to that tool, we've gotten other tools for the skid steer that help us with loading trucks and also splitting wood. And what we have coming, it's either going to be the end of this month or the beginning of March, very exciting addition is a commercial log splitter, which is ostensibly a processor. And for those who don't know what that is, it's a machine that's a little more automated and has a 12-way wedge on it. What we're looking at here is a one-way. So a 12-way wedge will take a 24-inch piece of firewood and turn it into equally split pieces. So you can imagine that the production on that type of machine will be dramatically higher. And so we'll be able to do more. So this was paid through corporate and individual fundraising. Where we're at right now is somewhere around $25,000 a year in expenses, including our financing, repairs, etc. This isn't including any future large acquisitions, mostly about maintenance, repairs, insurance, gas, and some purchase of raw wood, which we have done as well. So one of the things that is a long-term goal of Wood4Good and is to bring on a part-time employee. I run a business and I put my heart and soul into this. We're really passionate about it, me, my boys, the family. But we also recognize that I also have to run my business that actually pays bills. We need somebody part-time to help us with running volunteer days, distribution, and the things that I can't do because I simply don't have the time. And the biggest thing that will help us with the part-time person is that most of the corporate volunteer days want to be Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 when Eric isn't available. And, we have lots of companies like, yeah, we'll send 15 people out, but I can't go and do that. So that's one of the big helps that, and we're hoping that will be covered partially due to the additional firewood bundle sales as well. Okay, ready for next, please?
Try it. I don't know why sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. There we go. Yeah, put the cursor.
Yeah, so that's our big truck right there, right? So that was financed this past year, right? So that truck is, so we have two trucks, right? We have one truck that's more like for the smaller cord distribution, and this one can do that too. And ostensibly, like we have 2 deliveries in Milton, right? There's a divider in the truck. And so we can drive that truck out, dump half of it in one yard and the other half in another. And it just saves us a lot of the time that we were spending before driving back and forth that we no longer have to do. That's me having fun on the skid steer. So, okay, next slide, please. So here are like the big future goals, right? As I indicated, we want to get to 400 cords next year, right? So that's going to involve more pods, more volunteers, more people to drive our truck, because that's actually a large part of the time. And actually, Chris from your Rotary has been a big help for our cause. And I don't know, maybe he did 30 cords for us last year, driving one of our dump trucks for distribution. So he would come out on Sunday mornings, we'd have the truck loaded, he'd bring it out, we'd load it again. And then on some days we actually did 3 loads in one day, where he was driving to bring to family. So he's been a huge help for us, right? So the things that we need help with, right? We want some additional local citizens with a passion for our cause. Our board is made up of non-local people, and so we're hoping that we can find some folks who really see how important this need is and how underfulfilled it is with what exists in the infrastructure in Vermont now, and what a dramatic impact this is having on families, to help us in terms of big picture thinking, so we can really continue to spread the good ideas and thoughts about how we can fundraise and grow the organization. Additionally, looking for another volunteer, someone who can help with to reach out to local businesses for volunteer days, and then also for things like grant writing, which is something that I've actually gotten pretty good at. But again, this is always a time constraint thing, and we don't expect the part-time employee that we hire to likely be able to do that, because it's kind of a different skill set a chainsaw and heavy equipment operator versus a grant writer. Probably wouldn't come in the same person, if that makes sense. And yeah, so then, just more volunteers in general to further our cause. We see Wood4Good as a statewide need, and we've built the infrastructure to cover ostensibly the entirety of the northwest corner of the state. If we could set up 3 more of them across the state, so in the different geographic locales where they're set up properly so that they can do that 50-mile coverage, we feel that we'd be able to cover the whole state. And the need tends to be greater outside of our immediate area, which of course is the wealthiest part of the state. And so me and the boys feel firmly that is something that we really need to make happen as part of the long-term goal. Ready for next?
That was it, looks like.
That's it. That's what we got.
Very good.
Yeah, so thanks. We've been really lucky, just close on this, that we've been really lucky, the boys and I, to be tasked with this. And, it's taken an immense amount of effort, but, as I think everyone I'm talking to right now knows, that you get a lot more when you give back. Seeing these families, impacting these families in the way that we have, it's just, the boys have learned a lot, and the people who really, the kids that have come and volunteer through the effort of what we're doing, and, like the Boy Scouts and other folks have seen, the impact, and it's been, we're lucky to be at the helm of this, and thank you for the time.
Oh, thank you, Eric. Wonderful, wonderful organization. Great job by you and your kids to start this, and great help to the community. Appreciate that. And in your honor and your name, we are going to make we got some questions here. First, we have a question. Go ahead, Armand.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Eric, for coming back again. And if I understand, you're looking for organizations such as our Rotary Club to reach out to local businesses for a volunteer day. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, that would certainly, if that is something on the list, absolutely. Yes.
And you mentioned weekdays not working well for you. Will they work okay now that you have the part-time help, or should we try to move it to weekends?
We don't have the part-time help yet.
Okay.
So this is kind of like, I'm really hoping to pull a rabbit out of a hat here and trying to make this happen. Because, we can all, like when we go out on Sunday, right? I had regular Sunday days, right? We have 20 people out there. But Sundays in 2 hours, we only get so much done. So my hope is to see if we can snag a couple more grants before April. And I know that's not much time, but if we can snag a couple more grants. And, with regards to Rotary, like one of the big picture things, and I think that this from PJ, that the Rotaries are looking to get together, hopefully, and do a grant with Rotary International that would be a match grant, so that we can have more capability to help more people. So, and we're okay with waiting on that, in that big picture thinking, because we want to see this live on beyond Eric Axelrod and his boys, and be a permanent place in our state.
Thank you. And I want to congratulate you on teaching your kids great work ethics. They're wonderful guys. We've met them. And you're also teaching them to be generous and giving individuals. And thank you for that.
I appreciate that, Armand. It all came together well, and they're much bigger characters, they've created real character for them, and it's a large part of who they are at this point. So thank you.
Very good. And looks like Jude, you have a question?
Not so much a question, but a compliment. I hope you realize, Eric, that it's people like you that provide some balance to the things that we see that are so negative, both here in our country and other countries. I know in the Ukraine, there are so many organizations and individuals who just on their own come up with time to be able to help in some way. So I just want you to know that that's one of the most wonderful stories that I can think of. And I think of your two boys and what you're teaching them. If we just could, multiply you and your boys and all the people that have volunteered, maybe we could overcome so much of this negative stuff. So thanks again.
Thank you, Jude. May it be so. May it be so.
Very good. Anyone else?
Yes. John, Leslie?
Go ahead, Susan.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks for your presentation, Eric. I was wondering, the Williston Community Forest will be having a large clearing project this coming year. I forget how many acres, but it's quite a few, and a lot of wood will be produced. I don't know if that's a potential source or if you're needing more sources in the year ahead.
Yes. We are. I mean, it's a constant bottleneck in terms of firewood. And I didn't mention this, but I'll give you a very short. The wood we get from Barrett's is not very good quality wood. It's actually unsaleable. And part of the reason is because it's so large. Some of the pieces we get are as much as 4 feet around. And for my first presentation, I alluded to this. So we have a attachment that runs on the skid steer that enables us to split those massive pieces. But when you talk about pieces that big around, some of them weigh as much as 400 pounds, right? So we're able to split them with this heavy machinery and then have manageable pieces. But when we get pieces that are 16 inches around, which is what comes from most forest, as opposed to like, homeowner trees, it's much easier and the production is, probably 5 times faster. So the answer is absolutely, we need wood all the time. And one of the things that I didn't mention in the presentation is that we partnered with a friend who has a logging truck. So if you hear of people who are doing like larger tree jobs on their property or in their forest, that if they can bring us the wood, great. But we also may be able to pick up the wood if in fact it's, it can't be like one tree, but if it's like, 10 trees or something, we can send that logging truck out on like a monthly route to pick up the wood. And that's another area that we're exploring to increase our intake of more easily processable wood, if that makes sense.
Makes good sense. Yes, Sally.
So, Eric, our Rotary Club for, more than 15 years has had as one of our regular organizations that we donate to, the Fuel Dealers Association's heating assistance every year, because heating and helping people who need heat has been one of our priorities. I see your work. I was surprised, and now I think I shouldn't have been surprised when you mentioned that the people who need this wood are often the poorest people who only heat with wood. And I'm thinking that in the future, we may be able to split our donations, our charitable donation, our yearly one, between the fuel dealers and you. I'd like to see us make you one of the recipients of our attempt to help people heat.
Yes, we would be very grateful for that, and especially our families. And there's so many stories that I didn't really get into the stories, but whether it's I had a person who lived, more than one person this past winter who was out of wood, literally going day by day, gets sick, and then they have no wood to heat their house with. And it's an unfortunate story, but I find that a lot of folks are going from emergency to emergency, right? So they're putting out this emergency, and now they have this next emergency, and they're okay until something goes wrong, and then the bomb goes off. And so we've been able to help a lot of families like that, and all sorts of different stories where it makes the work fun or very meaningful is what it's fun too. Yeah. Thank you, Sally.
Yeah, well, thank you, Eric, for what you
Take
do.
care. Okay, well, oh, yes,
Me?
you're on mute.
One more question. Sorry, this is Rick, Susan's husband, crashing. You said you would ideally like to have 3 more other woodlots across the state to kind of reach into every corner of the state.
Yes.
What have you identified what those kind of ideal locations are, like city-wise, town-wise?
So we've started that, but that's really in the long-term picture, because to be frank, Rick, what we really need before that happens is a proper woodlot. We're operating on free land from a farmer, and it's a muddy woodlot, and it's also uneven ground, right? We also don't have access to electricity, because one of the next big acquisitions we need is a kiln. A kiln is like, well, that's like a big firewood thing, but if you have a kiln, you can run the kiln and have a season load of firewood every week to go out in a distribution pattern, right? Versus having to wait 1 full calendar year, which is an amazing amount of wood to store and et cetera. So the other thing about a kiln is that the wood can go as far as we want, right? Because then the bugs are dead. So these are more big picture acquisitions, right? But if we could get 2 acres of flat land and an electrical hookup and a kiln, Wood4Good's in a whole different world, right? And so the answer is yes, we have ideas, but we need to solve Chittenden County first, and then we'll start looking at that.
Very good.
I think Leslie had one question. Go ahead, Leslie.
She does.
Thanks so much, Eric. What's the best way to get signed up for a regular volunteer rotation?
Great. Yeah, so we do every Sunday, 9 to 11. Right now, we're not doing it because we're focused on, well, there's too much snow and our family likes to ski. But 9 to, once the snow is done and it's not like a mud pit, which is usually like the middle of April, we're out there every weekend. You could also email me on my website, and there's a volunteer link. And you know, if it would be helpful, I can send you, emails about volunteer days if that Sunday doesn't work for you, if you're in church or doing something else on a Sunday. But yeah, with our hope of bringing in that new part-time person, maybe it's not going to just be Sunday anymore, it will be Saturday as well.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. It's always a pleasure to see you and to hear more about what's going on. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you. Sorry if I took too long for you guys.
Oh, not at all. Enjoyed this. Yeah. Thanks, Eric. Yeah, and as a thank you, we are going to make a donation in your name to the Williston Central School Mentoring Program. So thank you.
Thank you. Grateful. Appreciate that.
Great. Thanks, Eric. You're sort of an honorary member of our club now, I think. Great. You're welcome to stay with us. We have just a few more things to do before we end the meeting, or if you have to move on, we understand that also. I'm sorry at the beginning. I guess he wasn't quite here at the beginning. Our one guest that's in attendance today is Jorg Bernhard. Jorg, it's great to see you. Thanks for showing up. And I think rather than do sharing or fines, because some of you have to get back to work, I'll just ask if there's any announcements anybody wants to make or anything important going on in your life that you need us to hear about, please do so. Don't forget. Oh, okay, Leslie, go ahead.
I just want to make sure that everyone read your email, Sally, about the meal train for Gary and Sue. So if you aren't aware of that, check out the email from Sally.
Yeah, I think I sent it from the Rotary Club, didn't I?
Yes, good.
I think you did.
Yeah, it's got Kathleen Bruce's phone number on it. So that's for contact. She's the one organizing the meal train.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I would share with you is I was at Howard Novak's office yesterday and speaking with one of the hygienists, and she actually was asking me some questions about, she said, when Howard comes back to work, they don't know, sorry for my moving wallpaper in the back. When Howard comes back to work, they're not sure what they're going to say to him. And I shared with her from my viewpoint that everybody's very different who's in this grieving process, what their needs are. And I told her to not be afraid to ask Howard what he needs, because if he knows, he'll tell her. And if he doesn't know, he'll be grateful that she asked. Some people don't want meals. Some people don't want books. Some people just want you to say hello and give them a hug. So if you know somebody who's grieving, it's okay to just ask them what they need. Is there anything else anybody needs to say? Next week, Leslie.
I'm so sorry. I just want to add to what you said about grieving. I think, personally speaking, one of the most hurtful things we can do is to ignore the grieving. So just reaching out, as you said, is so important.
Yeah, it's fine. It's okay. Because we all know nobody knows what to say. And before I forget, next week, you will all be reminded that we're meeting for breakfast. I know I keep repeating myself, but I don't want you to not show up. So come in at 6:45 to help set up if you can. Who is our speaker chair starting? Oh, Armand, are you speaker chair? No, you're April. So next week, Debbie has do you have a speaker, Debbie? No, Marty has a speaker next week.
Yeah, no.
Marty's still here, gone. Anyway, so come in for breakfast next week. I expect to see you all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. And otherwise, everybody have a great week. And thank you, Susan, for letting Rick come in. Bye, everybody.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Have a great week.